Hey guys, this is Luke Gilbert with the Open House Boise team here in Idaho. I wanted to do a quick market deep dive with you today. I follow these numbers like a hawk, but I think there's been a lot of noise in the market, specifically about Boise. And not to put those rumors to bed, but more just let's talk real numbers out here in Idaho. And as a guy with his feet on the ground here in management, development, and sales, I think I have some perspective I'd like to share with you. And we're going to use sold data collected by Keller Williams, scrubbing the MLS here, and talk about a couple of the reports in relation to those things and how the market is actually performing in Idaho today. So I'm gonna hop right into that, actually. Share my screen here. All right. All right, guys. Well, thanks for being with me today. I'm going to start by showing you where we started in January. I started down here this year and I started running the numbers, and we'll get deeper into that too. But I felt like in order to tell this year's story, we needed to talk about last year. So we're going to hop back into there just to show you what I'm referencing for data here. This is market dynamics, which is done by a statistician here at Keller Williams, and they deliver this monthly, and it's sold data. I'm going to take you into active and pending data as well, because I love following the trends from active to pending to then closed. But closed is it's happened, and we're going to be looking about back about a month. This information comes out from me on the 4th of every month, and I'll try to get a video out by the 15th if I can. Sometimes that's a little harder than others, but this video specifically is about catching us up in the market after 2022 into 2023, and it's based on most of our narrative is going to be around these collected data points here. Let me just move this over. Okay. So hopping in here, January was awesome in 2022. Anybody who knows me, we were buying property back then, and it was hard to tell what the future was going to look like too. So it made sense considering average price was year to date. I mean, we came out 32% up in 2021. So coming into 2022, this column here is year to date appreciation starting in January. January, we did almost 1%. February, we did 1.3%. March, we did 2.3%. And this is all in a single, to start the year. April, 3.4%. This is to start the year coming out of 2021. We were just off to the races. A median price was climbing too, as you watch this number. I've been kind of studying this in a couple different directions. With this data, we don't actually peak until October in 2022, which was a surprise. However, we're watching things climb. March is when interest rates started climbing, and there definitely was a noticeable shift in the industry here in Idaho. And what happened next was on everybody's mind. I mean, it still is for that matter, but we were watching this data closely. And as you'll see here, year-to-date appreciation doesn't peak until November. I mean, we take another huge jump into May, and I think a lot of people were buying in front of the curve on that. Keep in mind here, watch active listings in relation to that. Active listings coming into spring put a ton of pressure on price, obviously. And then in a single month, we double inventory. Now, it's funny because if you look at that from a percentage increase, like let's say, inventory goes up 100% in Idaho. I mean, you look at this number, dude. We went from 468 to 1,015. That I'm sure at this, here we go, months inventory right next to it. That's 1.5 months of inventory when a neutral market is 4 to 6 months. So we'll call it 5 months to stay right in the middle there. At no point during 2022 do we solve our inventory issue. At no point at all. In fact, it's interesting to watch this, right? We climb up to a 2.6. Now, this is Ada County numbers specifically, okay? And the Ada County includes Boise, Eagle, Star, Kuna, Meridian, and maybe there's one I can't think of, but that's the list of Ada County, right? So when you're talking Boise's in Ada County, and these numbers are specific to that. I'm considering a deep dive out in Canyon County too. We do a ton of work out there and manage a bunch of property over that way too. But keep in mind when you're looking at these numbers, these are specific to Ada County, but Ada County turns into 1,600 listings. The other side of that is across the entire valley. And when I include Canyon County, right around August of 2022, we hit 3,600 listings across the board, which felt insane to everybody because we had been running on 700 listings for like 2 years running, 20 and 2021, it was nothing. I mean, look at this. Look what we come into January with, 220 listings, basically impossible to find something for sale. And we were, it was a cage match to get anything. So we're, yeah, I am recording here. Okay, perfect. So anyway, we come down into August where we peak in inventory, and then check this out. We just start sliding again. Now we saw some movement in interest rate here, but we were still climbing in interest rate. And you're seeing, look at this average price. It doesn't peak until November of that year. Now, December and January were wonderful times to buy a house in Idaho because we had a lot of sidelined competition and builders were taking losses to sell properties. And if you were shopping then, not only were you experiencing concessions, etc., but I mean, check this out. You don't see a ton of that showing up here. Yeah, okay, here we go. We step back down. We touch 8.3% in November, and then we step right back down to 6%. And we finish the year in 2022 with a 5.9 to be precise, 5.9% appreciation, and potentially one of the most disruptive years we've had in real estate in 13 years. So that is just to tell the story. I started clocking some other numbers over here, which I'll get to when I get down to this year's numbers. But I just wanted to kind of wrap on 2022. It was a confusing year, and it was hard to say what was going to happen, but the numbers don't lie here. This spells to not only a late peak, everybody else, I was thinking we peaked in early May in direct relation to interest rates, but I think the market stayed hot with people interested in beating the rise in interest rates. So anybody who bought in here who felt like they were losing is now feeling like they're winning at a 5% interest rate, because we haven't seen that in almost a year at this point. And I think right now, today we're probably hovering around 5.5, maybe a little bit less. And that's been a volatile number as well. But let me take it down into 2023. Okay, so 2023, we continue the trend that began in November into December of downward movement in property value here. So it's important to note, this is the numbers we're seeing here look dramatic. And I started to, dramatic. I mean, about a 3% decrease in value, which is a little less than 1% a month going through April of 2023. But keeping in mind too, from peak to valley here, we are still up year over year at about 3%. So if we're still hanging on, I just wanted to show you too, that's consistent with CoreLogic's report of a year over year. So, nationally, we're kind of on pace. Like I want us to consider ourselves a standout market, but we seem to be moving pretty consistently with national real estate. And it is very interesting how national trends don't always affect locally. And, a lot of you are paying attention to what's happening in Florida, where they're continuing to race, where you're losing in some areas. And in Idaho, we are considered the Pacific Northwest. So potentially we are tied into the narrative around the Western depreciation scene, but we are not California, we're not Oregon, and we're not Washington. In fact, quite a bit of our customer base comes from there because of the huge value you find in Idaho. But I just wanted to point this out because it's very consistent with what we're seeing here. It's this sheet in Idaho. As far as year over year, we're up. CoreLogic is also predicting a 4.6% appreciation in value this year, which is interesting, and we'll keep our eye on it. But coming down to they are also mention Idaho as the number 2 place most likely to decline in value. Now, I guess year over year, we're already doing that, but I wanted to point out a couple of things. That got me digging, and I said, okay, so bringing it back to the data I'm using for the majority of this presentation, I came in here and I said, okay, here are sold homes during the last 12 months, right? Giving us our average number on a yearly basis here. So I said, okay, this seems to be the split between 600 and 700,000 seems to be the split. So I added my number of homes below that number and my number of homes above that number, with the suspicion that where we're seeing average is a tricky number, right? You sell a $4 million house and it skews the average price pretty easily. Whereas median is a number that I like to follow as well, because it's half the homes in the area are doing this. I kind of like that number, but because we're following average price, scroll back over to it, because we're talking specifically about average price. I mean, very small decline in the grand scheme of things, just about a 3% decline from January. But I kind of was wondering where that was coming from, because if you're shopping in Idaho right now, it's hard to buy a house, guys. It's not easy out here. And if you're below median home value, which I want to say is right around 500, it's probably up in the mid fives at this point, because we've been watching that number climb this year. But we're watching median home value climb while we watch average home value decline. And I'm like, all right, well, where's that coming from? So here are the number of homes that are larger than $600,000. And you can see a pretty steady decline in the number of homes sold there. And then here's total homes sold. That's total sold. And here's less than $600,000. So if you watch this too, it's like a holding pattern in the median, right around median home value or less. And we're losing sales in the 600 plus space, which is visible here in Idaho. So we talk a lot about this with our group. It's, hey, the gap between your home at median value and the home that you want is getting smaller because more expensive properties are having a hard time moving, and we're seeing bigger price reductions and more concessions in those areas. So interesting to see this play out here, where a marginal step down in number of homes sold against to some degree marginal, but much more noticeable step down in homes sold in the 600 plus space, having a direct impact on the average price of a home out here. So it is quite possible that your home in Idaho has maintained, if not gained value, depending on where you bought. I know with my group, we were buying aggressively new construction in 2021 below median home value. Why are those things important? Well, below median home value is proving to us now that it holds value better than higher end real estate. Not to say you can't win in the high end space either, but the fluctuations are bigger. And then also new, because we're avoiding the cost of construction, which is a huge variable when you talk about cash flow. So I wanted to touch on those numbers, guys. It's not nothing groundbreaking here, but my goal is to touch base with you on a monthly basis about the numbers so we can kind of watch this trend. There seems to be upticks in activity. I'm going to take you now over to our active and the pending. We track these numbers on a daily basis, but basically we track active listings, the days, their active median days on market, average days on market, average price, active median home price. For my own information, I like to know what share of those are new construction, because this is an interesting number, guys. I should mention too, this is across the whole valley. This is Ada County and Canyon County combined are these numbers. So they're not a direct comparison to the last part of the presentation, but we can get pretty specific as far as, Ada County numbers when we're talking about listings here. And notice this, Ada County's got twice as many listings, worse than that, in fact, as Canyon County. And they are different markets, but they live in the same umbrella, so to speak. So I'm just going to talk through this with you real quick, and we'll kind of wrap after that. But these numbers were collected this morning. Active listings. So we were looking at the number of total listings in Ada County. There were this many listings in Ada County alone in August of last year. This is a current active listings across the entire valley in the single family space specifically. Okay. So as I scroll down here, this number has been very small. We got as low as, this is April. I'm just as far back as April. Like there's really no change to this number. Slight increases, slight decreases, but it continues to hover around that 1,500 to 1,600 listings. And now you're going to see where that we're starting to see it climb, because we were coming out of the winter, right? And we were all seeing how December was a tough month. It was the first time we saw a real correction in home value last year. And a lot of that was in direct reflection to the number of homes available. So you can see I'm back in 2022 at this point with 2,300 listings. Let me take you back as far as there's November. Look at me climbing here. I mean, I watched this trend go down forever, and it was exciting to see because we watched it climb to 3,600 listings too. But here I am back in October, boom, still going back with the number hovering in the 3,500 plus. I won't keep doing that to you, but now check out active days, median days on market. Okay. Median days on market for an active listing. That was, it was worse than that in some instances, but we'll call it, 50, 53 right here seems to be the peak. bringing it back down. Okay, still climbing going into December. I said December was a good time to buy a house, dude. People were stalled in the market. Historically, that happens in winter. Winter's always a fun time to shop, but we were seeing that aggressively change here in Idaho. This used to be 12 days, right? Let's see where it's at today. Because here we go, touching 70, 71. I'm into December. I come into January, dude. 80 days on market was average for his median. That's median. Average days was 86. And then we saw, okay, that's starting to change. And the team was watching this happen, right? Down into the 40s, down into the 42s, down into the 30s, all the way down into today. We are sitting at 33 days on market. That's median days. Half the homes, half of the active listings are going off market independent in 33 days or less. Average is still up there in 52, but I talk a lot with my sellers about price strategy. Keep an eye on these numbers when I take you over to pending, because that's the next part of this presentation. And check this out, guys. Average price in Idaho today, based on using the same documents that we collected Keller Williams here to find these numbers. Actually, we're pulling this directly from the MLS, excuse me. This is if we search the MLS today, average price of an active listing is $1,750. Now, these numbers are not proven. They're active. We still got to sell them in order to have it become pending data, to have it become sold data. But as a lead metric, that number has been climbing. Look at it. Now we're down in the sixes. This is just in the March, guys. March, 688. Still going back, still going back. Man, let's see if I can touch 5 on this. Yep, boom, down in the 5s in January. Today, average price of an active listing is 717,000. Median home value active is another good one to follow. Again, it means half the homes in the valley are priced less than this, half are priced more. I like it against average because of that $3 million home that throws things off. But as you're scrolling down, median days is sticky. I mean, it's much more of a gentle climb, which means we're seeing a lot of the market share stay in the balance in market share is a good way to put it. So going out of January, not a ton of movement from January 1st median or 3rd median active listing to today. I mean, that is, not nothing. We're up to 600, but compared to average, it's definitely a noticeable difference. I'm going to just touch on this real quick. The new construction number, this includes to be built and under construction listings. So when I say there's 838 listings in the valley in new construction, the truth is, if you wanted to buy one of those to live in 30 days, you've got about half that number. So actual homes ready to be moved into is about half of this new construction number. So when we look back at total active listings, 1,600, that's half of them are new construction or more, actually, which puts a ton of pressure on the resale market here. And then the other half being new construction, half of the new construction listings aren't even ready for you to move into. And in an up market, I love buying a build project and riding the equity wave. But I've seen some people lose to the movement in interest rates. 8 months later, your interest rate isn't what you thought it was. It's pretty easy to get burned that way. So I think people are more cautious about buying build projects right now. And because prices are still unstable, and there's a lot of talk about that nationally, buying a project that's under construction, the time horizon of that becomes more important. All right. And so that's your new construction number. Obviously, here we go, Ada County. Now, pending listings. This is a cool number too. There's more pending listings than there are active, right? That's great to see. That means we're moving property out here. And pending median days on market is 7 days, guys. So when I bring you back over here, active median days is 33, and active average days on market is 52. Pending, a pending listing spent 7 days on market. For the median, so half the homes in the valley spent 7 days on market to sell. Average is 31. So these numbers are super important, because I tell my sellers, like, price strategy is more important than it's ever been. You're either selling in a week or you're sitting here for 52 days. And 52 days, when we're watching, bring it back over here, when we're watching a potential decline in the value of a home, we don't know where this is going to go. But 50 days later, you could lose, if this repeats itself, you could lose 6% of home value. That's not a big deal, guys, but it's worth following. And if timing is important to you, knowing these numbers could be as well. So bringing you back over to the other thing here, we got that was an exciting number for us. It hit 7 the other day, and Evelyn, who works on the team, sent over the number and said it hit 7 days. Because watch this, median down into the 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now here we are in March, guys. Not even April, March 22, 25, 33, 34, still going 40. Holy cow. So here we seem to top out in median days here. Like it peaked up. December was an interesting month. We peaked at about 40. This is 4 months ago, guys. We went from 40 days for a median. Half the homes in the valley were selling in 40 days or less. And now half the homes in the valley are selling in 7 days or less. That is a very aggressive market, guys. Average price of a pending listing. Okay, this one, these are homes selling versus homes active. Are you seeing the difference in that number too? This is the average price of an active listing, 717, and the average days on market. A lot of these homes are not selling because of what we were showing you earlier. If you're priced at 717, you're on the north side of that more than 600 number, and those homes that we're seeing less sales of, which does make sense. They're less affordable properties to at today's rates. But anyway, median home price at this is active, right? And we're bringing it back over to pending, which is the homes that are selling. If you have a house right now and it's worth $500,000 or less, you've got a wonderful opportunity to sell, and we could sell your house fast. Then at the same time, if you bought your property and it was worth less than 500 when you bought it, you have a very sticky price, my friend, because check this out, median pending home value. If I scroll back, this is it. We'll call this 470 for easy math. I'm scrolling back. This is in May. Here we are scrolling back into April. Almost no movement, right? Into March, almost no movement at all. Into February, almost, okay, slight downtick. Oh, there we are, right back to 460. Almost no movement at all. Into January. Okay, January was where we started to see this number correct. You know, it bottomed here and then has stayed at that line. It's almost like the affordability margin in Idaho is the 460 number. And if you can afford a house in Idaho at 460, it's a very tight market right now, because that, first of all, that number is not moving, but second of all, the amount of inventory we have in that space is very narrow, and also the buyer pool is still pretty wide. So I'm going to wrap on that, guys. The reality is these are the statistical numbers. The way the market feels is volatile. Some months it feels like nothing's changed, and some months it feels like the end of the world is coming, as I'm sure some of you can relate to. But still a good time to buy and sell in Idaho. And I think what we've proved in 2022 was the resilience of this market. I think potentially that was inevitable. It's a supply and demand issue. We still, now people are selling out of California and saying, look what you can get in Idaho for the money. You know, it used to be, look how cheap it is. It's not cheap here anymore, guys. But at the same time, I think we have made comparable movements to national real estate. And I think everybody's waiting for the bottom to drop out. I'll continue to follow that trend in our first part of the presentation there. This trend here, again, year over year, we are up the predictable 3+%. And it could very well be we stay pretty flat this year, and or interest rates start to move in our favor and we're off to the races again. But if you have any more questions about this, please don't hesitate to reach out, comment below. If those of you who already know me, my name is Luke Gilbert with Open House Boise. I also run a management company out here. Good to see you guys. If there's anything I can do to help you, please don't hesitate. Talk to you soon.